Hello everyone and welcome to a very impromptu episode of This is a Revolution, your weekly RevPro podcast, which is coming to you now for the second time this week. As I say, very impromptu. You'll be thinking, where is Dave? It's just George by himself. Well, I decided I was going to jump on now that we're at 10 to 6 on Friday afternoon, and Andy Quilden and RevPro have dropped the brackets for the Trios Grand Prix. So no doubt my good friend Dave will be writing an article on davethemark.com to predict what he thinks is going to happen all over the weekend. And I was having to think, you know what? I might do the same. I might jump on here to all of you guys about my predictions. But with it being a trios weekender, I'm not going to give you one or two, but I'm going to give you 3 sets of scenarios. So we're going to do predictions with a little bit of a difference here. We're going to give you the predictions that I think will happen. We're going to give you the predictions that I would like to happen. And then we're going to give, well, it's not predictions, it's just fantasy booking at this stage. But it's the fantasy booking of what I would do if I was given these teams and how I would put this through to get to the finals of the Trios Grand Prix. So hopefully you'll enjoy this. It's not going to be a long video. We're probably going to be here, 20 minutes or so maybe, if that. But it's just a good little insight into seeing what the finger is on the pulse, where my finger is on the pulse, I should say, with RevPro, and what we might get throughout the weekend. So without any further ado, we're going to do the what I think will happen first. So we've got our first sets of quarterfinal matches. So if, like me, you had a look and were going, what the hell? Because you saw True Grit versus Youngest Guns in Charge as a first round matchup, where most of us would have probably said that's a finals there. That was a big shock. So for that one, I have said that I think Youngest Guns in Charge go through. It's one of those matches where I don't really want to call like either of these teams going out so early. But that's who I think are going to go through. We're obviously building to stuff going on in the tag team division right now. And it could feel like a win here for Youngest Guns in Charge will allow the inevitable match between Mills and Joshua versus Young Guns to just go down a notch, to maybe allow Gallows Anderson in there first before they get to that big match, which I think is going to happen at Uprising this year. I think that's going to be one of our main tentpole matches for the AEW RevPro Undisputed British Tag Team titles. So Youngest Guns in Charge, it allows the guys to keep their momentum going. Remember as well that Young Guns took a loss to Oku and Sha Samuels last week. So you've also got another team in the mix there potentially for the titles. You've got Leon Slater, who I reckon we're building something big in RevPro as well towards the tail end of this year. So we've got a lot going on there. This is one of those ones where I think Mills, Joshua and Rhio could afford to take the loss. But it is also such a fun team that I don't really want to see them take the loss. But I think Youngest Guns in Charge are who we see go through to the semi-finals here. Then we go on to the all-Spanish team contingent of Plan B versus Lista Negra. Lista Negra, Blacklist, they are the ones for me. We've seen these guys in RevPro a couple of times now. We've seen what they're all about. They exude confidence. They've got, like, people are just behind them, like, in such a serious way. They're cool. What they do in the ring is fantastic. Yeah, I'd have I think Lista Negra will go over in this one. We've got CPF versus Flying Bryant Brothers. This one I think is going to be a pretty fun match, you know. I think you've got 2 really great trios going in there. But I think CPF are going to pick up the win. We're going into this as well with like a really nice kind of set of circumstances from where we were this time last year, because obviously Flying Bryant Brothers are that much more established in RevPro now. And CPF have also become really established over the last year and really made a name for themselves in RevPro. So coming into this with having Nino Bryant with the title. You've got the backdrop of Maverick Mayhew and what's going on there with him. The final remaining trophy as well. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on here, but I think CPF pick up the win and they move on to the next round. Finally, in the first round, we have Kaven, Trew, and Lacey versus Los Trenquillos de Japon. This was an interesting one coming into it because, again, we're coming off the backdrop of a lot of stuff going on with Trent at the moment. He's clearly searching for a tag partner. And he took a loss to Kaven in Sheffield, which I don't think many of us would have predicted. So we come into this interestingly because he's got some really big name heavyweight tag partners behind him. But I see Kaven, Trew, and Lacey managing to eke a win out here. There's been a real play seemingly at the minute to kind of acknowledge that these guys, they do get beat a little bit and they are kind of treated as mugs almost. I think between them being little shits like they are and the machine, because if you watch the live reactions from the weekend, that is mentioned by TK and Mambo that they have not been invited to Barcelona. Could we see an appearance by one or both of them that cost Trent the match? I think so. I think that could happen. And that could be a way of getting through this first round with BUSHI and Naito in particular being protected while still advancing Kaven, Trew, and Lacey. And obviously what we want in this tournament, or what RevPro probably want in this tournament as well, is that they can't just have people coming in and taking all the big spots. They need to really elevate their own guys within this as well. So that's what I'm calling. So there's your first round winners. True Grit, Lista, Negra, CPF, Kaven, Trew, and Lacey. Going into the second round, the semi-finals, I've had Kaven, Trew, and Lacey. Sorry, I think I said Young Guns, didn't I? So going into the second round, I've had Kaven, Trew, and Lacey defeating Lista, Negra. Now, again, I think you've got two young teams here that are really exciting tag teams within the trios that people really get behind and have really vociferous kind of reactions to, whether it's Trew and Lacey, not Kaven, Trew and Lacey, Trew and Lacey, who people love them, but they love to hate on them. And then you've got Barcelona Blacklist, who just, they've got something about them, like the bandanas around the faces, the music, the imagery, like everything just feels cool and they can back it up in the ring. I think you can come out of this by having, again, something a little bit underhanded, maybe a little bit of cheating, or at least something a little bit unsportsmanship of having Trew and Lacey and Kaven go through to the next round. And what that does, it creates a little something in the background so that you can revisit them versus Barcelona Blacklist at some point down the line. Be it live in Coventry, you can have them come over for that. You've got live in London 100 coming up, you can go with something there as well. So it gives you something to draw on for future shows. And then I've got CPF defeating Young Guns. So this was one I kind of went back and forth about, but the reason I think they could do this is because look how close they came to beating Young Guns. This is Lando and Danny Black at York Hall at the Revolution Rumble. It was such a great match. And this is one of those scenarios where you can throw in the trio and actually say, well, this makes more sense that they would win this, because as great as Leon Slater is being a trio with Young Guns, you've got an actual proper trio here. This would also just have a chance to be a match of the weekend. It would be fantastic. So I think this happens. I think CPF win. And that gets us to the final. We have Kaven, Trew, and Lacey. And we have CPF. So we had last year's winners in the final. And Kaven, Trew, and Lacey, who I think as well last year got past the first round, I think Kaven, Trew, and Lacey pick up the win. It's not what I'd pick, I have to say. But again, we're going with some stories with CPF and with Maverick Mayhew. We're clearly doing something that seems to be building up Trew and Lacey a bit more as well. And Will Kaven being given such a big win, I think that was in line to kind of further accentuate the booking that's due to come at this show. So I think if I was doing predictions of who I think will win what match and where this all goes, I think that's how we get to the final, where Kaven, Trew, and Lacey pick up the win over CPF and become the 2025 Trios Grand Prix winners. Now, you might say, that's not what I would do. Or that's not where I think it will go, or how I would book it based on what the matches are. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take you through and say, here's how I think they could do it, just a different way, based on the matches that have already been announced. So this is what I would want to see. So in the first round, I would have True Grit go over Youngest Guns. I love both of these teams. I just want to stress that. I love the boys in Young Guns. Love Leon. The more you can use them, the better, right? They are probably when you saw that name come out, you're like, oh, this is big. But when you put Rhio with the guys Jay Joshua, Connor Mills, it is such an interesting proposition. And I'll get onto this a little bit later, but I kind of see this weekend as an almost non-canon RevPro weekend in some ways. Because we saw last year that there was things that happened, and especially again, we're noticing it on the intergender side of things. Intergender isn't something that RevPro do. It's something that Andy Quilden has said a few times that he doesn't really have plans on doing on a consistent basis. But he did it last year in the Trios Weekender when we had a gauntlet on the second day. Could this be a one and done and they just have one match? I don't know. But I think this is interesting enough to get a few matches out of maybe. So I would have True Grit pick up the win. I would also have Lista Negra pick up the win over Plan B again. I just think they're the more exciting of the two teams. I think they've got everything you could want. They've got charisma. They've got the in-ring. Yeah, give me that. I would have Los Trenquillos de Japon beat Kaven, Trew, and Lacey in the first round. I think there's just better matches there over the course of the weekend that could happen off the back of it. So yeah, that's where I'm picking up. And then the last one, CPF versus the Bryants. So again, I would have CPF go over the Flying Bryant brothers. I think it'll be a good match, but there's another match that I would like to set up here. So next up, we would have True Grit versus Lista Negra. I think this would work really well because you've got two very different styles. And I think there's things we've got to think about and potential limitations with some opponents as well. I think you've got a very, very hard-hitting team versus a team that I think could sell incredibly well for Jay Joshua, for Connor Mills, for Rhio. I just think this is, we speak a lot about styles making fights, and I think this is one of those occasions. So I would have True Grit beat Lista Negra in the semi-finals. And then I would have CPF defeat Los Tranquilos de Japon. So when I said about people that, or matches where you've got people that maybe you need to account for a little bit, obviously Naito is kind of getting up there a little bit and has had lots of injuries over the years as well, and doesn't quite move the way he used to. I think the guys in CPF could do a lot to help cover for that, and I think they could get some interesting stuff out of it. So give this match, whether again, if you want to have the Machine come in and do the spot that I said I think could happen in the match with Kaven, Trew, and Lacey, you could still do that here, or you could just kind of give a one-on-one win, handshakes afterwards, and maybe set up CPF versus Naito and BUSHI at Coventry. That would work well. In the final, it'd be True Grit versus CPF. and I'd have True Grit win. I just think that you've got Mills and Joshua on a roll after winning the Trios Grand Prix. God, the Tag League. You got Rhio clearly with her sights set on Mercedes Moné. Like I said, though, this is very much, to me, in a lot of ways, non-canon throughout the actual tournament, but by all accounts from the stuff that's being put out there, it does seem like the 3 wishes are being a thing. Still, right? Do those 3 wishes then mean that you get Rhio with her trophy calling her shot at Mercedes Moné? She knows Mercedes Moné is going to be in the country when Uprising is on. Does she say, hey, Uprising Mercedes, I'm calling it, you have to be here? That would be a really good way of doing it. You could then have the guys with Connor Mills and Jay Joshua. You could have them utilize it for something. Maybe they decide to add a stipulation to their match, make it no DQ, kind of like how CPF did with their trophy. I'm not sure, but it would just be a nice little acknowledgement for the hard work they're all putting in. Or maybe both guys decide to use their trophy to make it a 3-way match against whomever the undisputed British heavyweight champion is at Uprising as well. That could be an option we go, but it opens up some doors. So that's what I would like to see happen. Then we come on to number 3. And this is, if I was given free reign with none of these matches even being made at this point, what would I do with the teams? So, I'm going a little bit rogue on this one. I'm opening up with True Grit versus Plan B. I think let's just get a win on the board straight away. You've got a team here who have a perfectly good match with Ika Navarro in there with all 3 of True Grit. Would be fun as well, with True Grit picking up the win. I would then have Lista Negra pick up the win over Kaven, Trew, and Lacey. So much like I was saying earlier about you could do something that sets up another match down the line with Trew and Lacey and Barcelona Blacklist, you could do the same here by having them win. If you have Lista Negra win, then they've got a win over an established tag team in RevPro. So does that mean that they can come back? They can then enter the tag division, do a bit more. Do Trew and Lacey, do they want to get their own back on these guys? Do they attack them post-match? Do they do something? Yes, they could do all of those things, but this could be a way of bringing back to that. I would still book CPF versus Los Trenquillos de Japon. I think that'd be a really good first round match. Now, I know that we've had kind of like mixed messages about the trophies, right? Or people seem to think that it said they were having them for a year, but do we mean a year in wrestling terms or a year in literal terms where it is 1 year since you won them, which would mean that we've still got a few months yet before CPF need to use that final trophy? Or is it wrestling terms, and what they mean by a year is actually mean the next time this show runs? So we're going to go on that basis. We're going to say they have to use this trophy, and if they don't use it by the end of the weekend, they're done. Okay? So I would have CPF defeat Los Tranquilos de Japon, and I'd make it really pronounced that Joe and Danny are the reason for the win. Whether that's some big moves, whether that's great scouting to keep opponents out of the ring, however it looks, whether again we have the machine come in here and do something and they both take advantage of it, they are the reason that they pick up the win. All right, so go into that, play that, they pick up a massive win in the first round. And then Young Guns defeat Flying Bryant brothers. Again, you've got just this power trio of youngest guns in charge going up against the Flying Bryant brothers. It won't do them any harm losing in the first round. You've got Nino, who's got the Cruiserweight title, so Could Ethan then set his sights on the Cruiserweight title? Like, there's a match you can then have there. Again, there's ways you can build out of this while still pushing those guys through. So, we then go into the second round, the semi-finals. True Grit versus Lista Negra. I would still end up here. I still think this would be a great match. It'd be so much fun. You would just have those guys bumping so much for Jay, Rhio, Connor. I just think it'd be so much fun. And again, it's not the biggest loss in the world to lose to like the team that are really, they're up there ready and waiting to go for the undisputed British tag team titles. Do that. That would be so good. Then on the other side, we revisit Youngest Guns in Charge versus CPF, but in a trios element now. So you don't just have Ethan and Luke. You've now got Leon there as well. But on the other side, you've got Mav there as well. And I would have Mav be the one that takes the pinfall here. Do that. All right. Have it built up to that. Really have it sinking that he's the reason that they lost. Something he did, whether it was a mistake. Like, it doesn't have to be really pronounced going, hey, he's crap or anything like that. Not at all, just a mistake he makes. He's really in this pursuit for this big win, right? Like, we've seen it go up against Mills. We've seen the love that Danny and Joe get. We've seen what happened with Callum Newman. So there's a lot we can play off of here that kind of brings up for Mav having this chip on his shoulder. It feels like he needs to prove himself. Let's do that. Let's have him try to do something which maybe he could close out with a little bit earlier, but he doesn't. And then the guys just get him up for a doomsday device. Job done. Which then gets us to the finals. True Grit versus Youngest Guns in Charge. Now, you remember how I said about this weekend not being entirely canon in my mind, and that things happen that don't normally happen. So anyone that goes to shows regularly probably knows Sharon. If you don't know her, you've definitely heard her at RevPro shows. Imposter's Needle on social media. Great friend of mine. Love Sharon. She and I were talking, and she put an idea in my head, and I thought this out. When we said not canon, well, RevPro likes to do things mostly in a very sports-oriented way. But they don't normally do intergender wrestling. So could they get a little dash of sports entertainment here? And could we see CPF come out, their final wish has to be used before the end of this weekend? They turn the Trios Grand Prix final into a trio of teams. You have a 3 versus 3 versus 3 match. CPF pick up the win with Maverick Mayhew getting the decisive pin. I think this could add a lot of intrigue. I think it's something that would be very different, something outside of the wheelhouse of what RevPro normally do. It wraps up the 3 wishes that CPF have. So we don't have that hanging over them anymore and go, well, do we have a wish here still with CPF? Do we have 3 sets of wishes over here with this team? I mean, we're not Aladdin. There's no genies here. The wishes, like, we can't have too many of these everyone calls their shot with a wish, Money in the Bank style thing. So this, to me, could be a good way of getting to that final where you have 3 sets of teams. That last wish is gone. Maverick then gets to continue the wrinkle in his story. And you can even be him being the one that goes out there and really pushes it, and the other guys maybe not wanting to as much. So you can have this little interaction where they've won, but maybe there's a hollowness about how they feel they've won. I don't know. It definitely feels a bit more sports entertainment, but I think could add a little bit of intrigue to the weekend. And I think that would be fun. So guys, those were my 3 sets. Those were my, this is what I think will happen. This is what I would like to see happen. And if I was given carte blanche, this is how I would do it. The question now is, how would you do it? Let me know down in the comments. Until next time, I'm out of here.